All
Actually,
right.
that wasn't
Actually,
bad.
what? I
That
know.
wasn't bad.
I know it wasn't bad.
It
I
had to
know
grow on me. It had to grow
it
on me
had to
for a few
grow on you.
seconds.
I mean, the other song was like a little more, engaging or whatever. But we had to get the right music because we ain't want no strikey strikes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes,
Welcome to
blessings.
Temple Talk. Temple Talk Live. Now, this is a virtual gathering, gathering to enhance and support your mind, body, and spirit. And we do this live online every second, third, and fourth Sunday. However, the first Sunday of every month, we meet in person at TNAC Holistic Wellness Center in Baltimore, Maryland at 5525 Harford Road. And if you are in the DMV area or if you want to drive in, whatever the case, we would love to see you in person every first Sunday of every month. But if not, we encourage you to join us every Sunday morning. We usually start at like 10 a.m., but we had a little slow start this morning. So come on in, share this live with people, tag their names in it, share it on your profile, and add somebody to let them know we're about to have an a talk, a temple talk, and the temple talk is for the temple, this temple talk. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. I just rolled on
Oh,
out.
okay, okay. Um, um. Well, first, let me open properly. We come before you in the mind state of elevation, standing on a strong legacy of spiritual masters, healers, and powerful prayer warriors. We acknowledge our connection to Source and our honored and elevated ancestors. We are humble servants of the community. May we be properly guided with every word that we speak. Ashe.
Ashe and amen. Amen, amen, amen. So yeah, we had a wonderful Saturday, did we not?
Yes. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. I assisted the brothers of the community with a rites of passage graduation. But this rites of passage are for adult males who are being trained actually to train the youth. So that was very powerful and unique. So,
Mm.
shout out to the Baltimore Rites of Passage program and all of my Egg Bay brothers that have went through manhood initiations to become better men and more responsible contributors to our community. So shout out to everybody involved in that project. Shout out to all of the sisters that came through and supported and brought the feminine energy. And yes, beautiful, beautiful event. And then, we had another event going on. I'm sure that you want to elaborate on, Kenda.
Yes. So Reality Speaks did hosted master astro numerologist Lloyd Strayhorn. He came to Baltimore to share with us his expertise about the African origins of numerology, and he gave some wonderful, tangible, practical context to the science, and as well as he brought it home for us in terms of our daily living, and some notable mathematicians that are from here in the United States on this continent. And he also did some awesome um, readings for people. So if you missed it, you missed out. But hopefully, the next time, I think Jabari is going to bring him back again. You need to catch him. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience for sure. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, today's topic.
Yes. What's today's topic?
Do we understand how to love one another? Okay. So, our theme for the month is peace, understanding, and acceptance. All right.
Mhm.
And we set that off. Was it the past last Sunday, right? We set that off last Sunday, right? Yeah, last Sunday we
Yeah,
set.
wow, that was last Sunday.
Yes, 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 yes. And well, first of all, we had to give a shout out to brother Jabari and sister Monica. They're
Yes, yes.
getting much needed rest and relaxation with the family today. So, it's just gonna be me and Kenda holding it down or lifting it up, elevating it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
so just wanted to give a shout out to them. But on Sunday we talked about the importance of peace
Mhm.
through understanding and acceptance. We didn't get too deeply into the understanding and acceptance part because we emphasize what peace is and we define peace and then some ways to, maintain and cultivate your inner peace in order
Mhm.
to get peace in the community, to relieve us from the constant violence in the community. We need to have inner peace so that it will reflect outward. And just flipping through YouTube this morning, 8 people shot last night in Chicago, and one of them was a little girl that got killed. I didn't even click on the news. I
Mhm.
just saw the title, because it gets overwhelmed with the constant violence that happens in our communities and in the world. And I frankly don't want all of that festering into my spirit, you
Yeah,
know.
and also, I'm
However,
sorry. Can I just acknowledge that we
sure.
also had a young child here shot at Mandamin Mall too, 7-year-old child as well. So we want to give love to that family as well in the
Mm.
Baltimore area.
So what that happened yesterday?
Yeah, it happened yesterday.
Okay. Um. So so I went through in the things that I was talking about last week. One of the things I brought up was the violent crime statistics in Maryland, right? And
Mhm.
well, let me pull some up because I don't have those crime statistics memorized. Um. So out of 19,287 violent crime offenders in the state of Maryland in 2022, this is from the Federal Bureau of Investigation Crime Data Explorer. Out of 19,287 violent crime offenders in the state of Maryland in 2022, 13,627 offenders were black. Okay, 4,242 were white. 15,174 of the offenders were males, and 3,617 were females. Look at that disparity between male and
Mhm.
female violent crime offenders. 15,000 versus 3,000. 15,000 males, violent offenders versus 3,000 females. Now, some of us may not be surprised about that because we know that it's usually the males that are at least recorded that are committing these violent crimes.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
it could be that there are many more females committing violent crimes, but they may not get reported, you know. But either way,
Mhm.
just going on those statistics on face value, that's a huge disparity. Now,
Right.
out of 21,557 victims to these violent crimes, almost 12,000 of these victims were males and almost 10,000 were females. So when we got 15,000 violent crime offenders are males, but only 3,000 were females in 2022. But out of there were 12,000 victims that were males and almost 10,000 that were female.
Mm.
And so it's only 2,000 less females who were victims than males. But yet there's an overwhelming majority of the males being the offenders. Okay. Now,
Mhm.
specifically within Baltimore City, out of 4,677 violent crime offenders in Baltimore City in 2022, 4,040 offenders were black. You
Mm-hmm.
know, out of 3,357 of the offenders were males. So out of,
Right.
you know, and then but only 1,307 offenders were females. Okay, but let's look at the violent crime offenders in Baltimore City. 9,348 violent crime victims. I mean, violent crime victims. 9,348 violent crime victims. And out of that, there are 5,127 victims were males, and 4,203 violent crime victims were females.
Mm.
And so again, large disparity between violent crime offenders being males and violent crime offenders being females, but the amount of violent crime victims of males and females are very close. And look, I'm not a statistician, and maybe I'm interpreting the stats incorrectly, but it looks to me that the overwhelming majority, not, I can't say majority, but a large amount of the victims, no, a majority of the victims seem to be females. No, not a majority, because the majority of victims are males, but it's just so many,
Mm-hmm.
you see? And to me, a big part of the violence in the community is males against females.
Mm.
And I think we should be concerned about that. You know, now there may be some discrepancy about how these crimes are reported. And like I said, some female violent crimes may not be reported as much as males, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still an overwhelmingly large amount of violence of men and women, but men between women. And so to me, that tells me that there's a severe problem in male female relationships. There's a lot of violence going on. And then
Mm-hmm.
since we're in the majority black city, in the majority black area, then most of the perpetrators and victims seem to be black males and females.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem. That's a problem. I mean, you have anything to say on that before we move forward?
No, keep going. No. Mm-mm.
And so what that has prompted us to talk about is we have to find a way to develop our ability to be peaceful and to experience peace among ourselves, between
Mm-hmm.
males and females in our relationships. We have a issue with one another, and it's dealing with a lack of understanding and a lack of acceptance of one another. Because whenever you deal with violence on a consistent basis between people, there's definitely not an understanding. There's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not an understanding of one another. It's constant disagreement, and there's the inability to reconcile these disagreements and these differences before they get to violence. Okay. So we want to deal with a topic on how to come to a better understanding and how to love black men and women. How to
Mm.
love the black man and how to love the black woman. Okay? That's where I think would be a good thing to understand. And so we going to look at some excerpts from two different books by a brother named Dr. Ron Elmore. And he wrote a book called How to Love a Black Man, and he wrote another book called How to Love a Black Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And these excerpts are going to give us some insight into some understandings and allow us the opportunity to maybe analyze some of the ways that we may lack the understanding when it comes to the opposite gender or our
Mm,
complementary gender, you know. And so let's start with How to Love a Black Man. And the reason I want to start with these excerpts because he has a lot like the excerpts that I got, there's a lot more written down on how to love a black woman. So that's why I'm
mhm.
starting with the black man, because I think we
Okay.
might, but we're going to spend time with both and we're going to go back and forth, right?
Okay. I wanted to ask the listeners if anyone has heard of either book. If you can comment and let us know in the comments if you have heard about either book and if you actually have it or have you read it. And as we go over it, because I bought the books years ago. Like I know you said that they came out back in the 90s. I remember purchasing those books.
Like
Um
it came out like 99, 2000.
yeah, something like that. I remember having that book and here's the title if anyone wants to know it. We're going to share it right here. But yeah, but go on, babe.
So, How to Love a Black Man. All right, well, hold on. Let me also say this. Let me also say this.
Mhm.
We have to study one another. We have to study ourselves as men and as women, but we also have to study. If I'm a man, I have to study women with the intent on learning who they are, how they function. And as a woman, you have to study men
Mhm.
with the intent on learning who we are and how we function. Because we get to no understanding if there's no knowledge. And you
Right.
don't get no knowledge if you don't educate yourself. We can't
Mhm.
be getting into relationships and building families without studying the art and science of relationships and the art and science of raising a family.
Right.
Okay, because you're dealing with many layers of things when you take on a relationship with a significant other and you start building a family. You have your own issues that you bring to the table, and then you
Mhm.
have to be mindful and get an understanding of the other person's issues that are bringing to the table. And when y'all both combine, there's a certain type of mix, a certain type of solution of ingredients that come together and produces something completely different than when you were just an individual on your own. So therefore, and we cannot say that, oh yeah, I just did the best I can, but there's no manual when it comes to marriage or when it comes to relationships. That's a lie. Don't lie to yourself. There's lots of information that exists in the world if you just take time to investigate and put it
Mhm.
under a study.
Of
For
yourself.
example, for men, if we study relationships as at least as much as we study sports, the stats with sports, all these different positions and who's doing this and doing that. If we put that same energy into relationships, right?
Mhm.
And we study and observe, okay, who's successful in relationships? I need to study their character. I need to see, what are some things that they do and don't do to be successful. Okay, and then what are the stats on the success and failure rate of relationships and marriages? And then what are the contributing factors? I got to put it
Well,
under the study.
yeah.
Go ahead, baby. You
And
trying to say something?
yeah, I was. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I think as well as both men and women, we have to understand that there are foundational traits of being a melanated person in this country.
Hold
There
on.
are
Let me continue my point before you change it.
I'm
Because I
not
wanted I
changing
wanted to
it.
talk about women too. Because I said men, if we study sports as much. Now for women, if you study as much
So
study relationships as much you study on reality shows.
so can I finish? You let you.
I will.
I'm
I will.
not
I will.
changing the
I just
subject.
wanted to. I just wanted to.
I'm adding value.
I
I
just wanted to
thought.
add, I just wanted to finish my point because I don't want to just say
Okay.
what men need to do and then we get off to something else and not say what women need to do. Because men and women, we very observant if there's an imbalance, because men loved Kevin Samuels, but women didn't love Kevin Samuels because of he didn't come with a balance. You see?
Okay. I
And
wasn't going to say that you weren't, but again, being observant and understanding. See, we understand the communication style. And so I will yield for now and let you finish.
no, I was just saying, we just gotta put as much energy and focus on studying relationships, the art and science of relationships that we do with, you know, at least other things that we put time and attention to, because we put energy in the things that we care about.
Hmm.
We prioritize the things that we really want. But then when it comes to things that we need sometime, like really working on our relationship abilities and skills, we may not put that time into that. You know how they say people they beg for what do they say, you know what, I can't even remember the saying, something about us not working for what we need but actually working for what we want and begging for what we need. I don't even know if that's a good analogy, but we don't put that energy into relationships that we put into things that are more on the surface level instead of going deeper. So if we have violence, this amount of violence in the community, then it has to be a reason for it. And it has to deal with the mentality and the emotional state and the mental state and the emotional state of the people that are committing this violence. But violence is not just physical. Most violence begins verbally, and not just verbally, but first mentally with our violent understanding of one another. I'm sorry, babe. I don't want to monopolize the conversation. You go ahead.
I'm good. Keep going.
You sure? Because
I I mean, no. I mean,
what? Are we about to work out a relationship issue live in front of everybody?
I
That's what
think
it sounds like.
I think so. I think so. I think so.
What? Say what's on your mind. What's on your heart? What's on your heart?
Okay.
I did I overpower you? In the
Well,
conversation.
so with the gentle with the dance of the masculine and feminine, and I'm not taking it off course, but I'm bringing it back around
Okay.
because what I was going to share was the stats, all the tangible things that you are putting out, the concrete things. That's a very masculine thing, and I appreciate you putting the facts out there, tangible things that we can look at, but there's also the aspect of the nuances and the flow
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I think that the masculine and the feminine both need to be astute of. We can be conscientious of what the tangible things are about the struggles of being a black man, the struggles of being a black woman, the struggles, all these different things, and the violence. And a lot of those things can be curbed or shifted through the way, as you were saying, to pay attention. And it's the movement and the nuances. For instance, when you were sharing and I got inspired. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there used to be a time when I would just jump in and just bam. And I have learned to pace and watch. And it's not about me quote unquote waiting for you to give me permission. And I think a lot of times men and women, we have this unspoken power struggle that we haven't quite mastered, when it's really not about a power struggle, it's about the dance. And so you were like, okay, you can cut in. And then when I decided to cut in, you didn't trust that I would keep the flow. You thought I was going to change it from a salsa to like a hip hop beat, I guess, or whatever. I was going to change the whole dynamic. And I think that because you know me, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. But
No, it's not that I didn't trust. I mean, that was my fault. I actually, I asked you if you had something to say before I even finished making my point, and then I remembered and I jumped back in. So that was I take responsibility for that, because I asked you to start speaking, but then I said, oh yeah, I forgot. Hold up, before we go to the next thing, then I jumped back in. Okay.
right,
So I'm taking accountability and responsibility for that little exchange. You see? So that's a key factor in communication.
right.
Acknowledge, be aware, be self-aware enough to acknowledge how you contributed to the quality of an exchange.
Or the
But
miscommunication.
yeah, or miscommunication, because if neither one of us take responsibility for our contribution, that's another point of contention that we're going to be arguing about and get stuck in. Well, you did this. No, I didn't. You did that. So let me look at what I did, but that comes from practice and self-awareness.
Practice,
Always
practice,
being
practice.
aware of yourself
Yes.
and how you contribute to the energy of your relationship exchange. All right. So I want to go on, if unless you have anything else to say, to
Mm-mm.
reading some excerpts on how to love a black man.
No, thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging that. I feel soothed and I feel heard and I feel honored. So please continue. Thank you.
Great. So whatever images that you have in your head of who black men are and will play, and babe, I want you to interject at any time, because I don't want to just be reading the whole time, but there's a lot that I want to share from both the black man perspective and the black woman perspective. But whatever the images that you have in your head of who black men are will play like a silent video as you read this book. Those images of him can either greatly help you or hurt you as you work with this book. For the next few pages, I challenge you to fine tune your video image of him. Ask yourself, does my image exist in fantasy, nightmare, or reality? But re-examination of men and your perceptions of them is only a start. Following that will be your opportunity to look inward at your own approach to love. How well has it served you? Often, how sincere attempts, often our sincere attempts to give and get genuine love sadly miss the mark. Beyond hope, high standards, and way beyond reality dwells a mythological figure, the ideal black man. He has never walked the earth, yet he has garnered the love and devotion of many a woman. He has never walked the earth. Oh, excuse me. He is absolute perfection personified. No woman has actually seen him, though some women thought they had, only to discover that they had been sadly mistaken. Still, other women have waited, sometimes with patience, often with frustration, yet clinging to the fantasy that this flawless specimen does exist and could soon appear. Okay, so let's
Can
look at the. Oh, you want to say something? Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yes, I want to jump in real quick. I don't think that in this modern time, now that was written in 99, and at that time I was 29 years old. And things were slightly different then. I don't think that any person, male or female, is expecting someone to be perfect. I'll speak as a woman, and I don't think that a woman, specifically a black woman, is expecting her mate to be perfect in
Okay,
my thinking.
Okay, well, let's continue because that's what your mouth say.
I don't think anyone that is watching, please comment and say, do you think if you are a woman, a melanated woman specifically, are you expecting the man to be perfect? Yes or no?
I mean, nobody's going to admit that they expect a man to be perfect because that makes no logical sense. But I think it's a lot. Let's just read
Okay.
on. Let's just
Okay.
examine.
All
Okay.
right. All right. All right. I'm just calling that
Let, let's
because
let's
yeah,
look at let's
that's
look at
fine.
the ideal black man. Okay. He's incredibly fine, but totally unaware of it. Built like Adonis, but never stuck at the gym. Sensitive and gentle, but not too gentle, not a wimp. Completely honest, but won't tell me anything that hurts. Totally unselfish, but remarkably independent, doesn't need anybody. Financially secure, but doesn't have to invest time in staying that way. Intelligent and well educated, but never acts proper. Sexually dynamic, but only in the mood when I am. This speaking from the woman's fantasy. Highly spiritual, but keeps his God in his place. Articulate, even eloquent, but sounds black, never white. Able to solve every problem, but not a know it all. Completely dependable, never disappoints, but not
Exactly.
not predictable. No, that's what he said. He said, Yawn, not predictable. Okay. This is not who black men really are, he states. He says, far out on the opposite extreme from the previous exalted image of black men is the raw deal black man. He is hopelessly negative. He is the hopelessly negative view of black men that some women hold. It's an image that is the result of unfamiliarity, disappointment, and cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
It can trip you up terribly because it breeds fear and resentment, but never love and intimacy. So let's look at the raw deal black man. He's utterly irresponsible, manipulative, exploitive, violent, abusive. He's lazy, undermotivated, low achieving, non communicative, inarticulate. He's uncommitted, self centered, immature, sex crazed, criminal, unfaithful, insensitive to women, especially black women. He says, be honest. Is there a little courtroom in your mind where black men have been brought up on these very serious charges? Perhaps just a few of the men in your life, most of them, all of them. How many depends on the amount of hurt, disappointment, and fatigue you've endured, and how much misinformation about black men you internalized. Your pain can make stereotyping, pigeonholing, and generalizing about black men awfully tempting. He becomes they, some becomes all. Actually, few men deserve to be placed in this category. It is an extreme and unrealistic, just like so the raw deal black man is extreme and unrealistic, just like the ideal black man. So they are two different opposite extremes. Okay,
Um,
go ahead.
okay. So I'm really now, and again, I'm not saying that the book is not valuable, and that's you just began, but I really think that that model is outdated for a lot of women in this modern era a little bit. I do agree that women view things on extremes based upon their hurt, right? But I do think that most women in this modern time really want the man in the middle, the balance. I just I think it's very extreme. And I think that women in general, you cannot say that what a black woman wants, because black women as black men are very diverse. So it's very dangerous to me
He's not.
to
He's not.
let me finish. I think it's very dangerous, whether he's saying it or other people in general, but it's very dangerous to generalize what a black man needs, because black men and black women, though we may share certain phenotypes, we're coming from different types of backgrounds. Some of us are coming from single parent homes, two parent homes, education levels, social experiences where our needs are uniquely individual. That's all. Thank you.
Right. Now, I don't think you're really understanding what he's saying. He's not saying this is what, like, most women want. He's saying that this is the illusionary images that some women hold and expect men to be. And so he's just running it down. Like, some women may have the idea of the ideal black man and gets disappointed when he is not that. And then some women may have the expectations of the raw deal black man, where he's, you know, on the opposite extreme of being negative. They may have that expectation. So
Okay, so okay,
yeah,
some.
so he's saying, left with only the two previous images of black men, you'll find satisfaction and love to keep eluding you. Those representations of black men only exist in the imagination of the very naive and the very disillusioned. So he's saying that he was being extreme. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so now he wants to talk about, and then, I mean, I don't know if you listen to social media lately. I observed it. I hear women saying these things about black men currently. That they're very disappointed and hurt. They some of them, not all of them, some of them are saying, they're stating things that are pigeonholing black men in a certain mentality, and men doing the same thing with black women, some of them. So it's happening currently. So now then he goes on to talk about the real deal black man. Says that it gets much of the real deal black man gets much of his sense of self-worth from his performance. Skill, achievement, conquest, acquisition, and competency are key for him in virtually all areas of life, including relationships. He possesses a wide and varied range of emotions, many of which are not available for outward display. Often afraid, angry, lonely, proud, or weary. He has survived repeated blows to his manhood, personally and historically. He is often more competent in showing his love than verbalizing it. He treasures his space, freedom, and independence, which can appear to be selfish. He's violently resistant to real or perceived failure. And he is familiar with and expects severe losses. He says the real deal black man is made of flesh and bone, the remarkable and the regrettable. He alone has the potential of desiring and experiencing your love and lavishing his upon you. This is who black men really are. Okay. So you stated your disagreement where he said that, you know, pertaining to the list that I read about the ideal black man and the raw deal black women. But let's see if you disagree with what he says about black men, like how to love a black woman. Okay. Let's look at it. Let's look at this.
You know, I am balanced, so don't be trying to give the illusion.
Okay, well, let's see then, woman.
Okay, all right then.
Let's go. Your phenomenal woman, who she really is and isn't. The straight facts. He's talking to black men now. He says, whatever your own personal images and perceptions about the nature of black women are, they will stare you straight in the face as you read this book. You will find that some of those images of her will be confirmed here, and you will take pleasure in knowing that in that specific area. You have been working with solid, reliable facts that have helped you to relate effectively to the Black woman in your life. However,
Mhm.
there are likely to be other images and perceptions about them that you may hold, which, as you read this book, will be challenged for their accuracy and their usefulness in your efforts to love her in a way that benefits you both. These faulty, albeit perhaps well meaning misperceptions can be seen for what they are, and some more accurate and thus more useful ones will replace them. So remember, how you perceive Black women has everything to do with how you will relate to them, and of course, how they will relate back to you. For the next few pages, you will have the opportunity to fine tune your own image of Black women. If you are honest and open minded and willingly to boldly examine your own thinking, this section will benefit you greatly. Here, you'll take inventory of the facts you have and how well they have served you in the adventure of loving a Black woman. As I share with you some of men's most commonly held images of Black women, ask yourself constantly, is this image truthful?
You're such a good reader.
Is this image fair? Thank you, babe. Is this image respectful? But don't interrupt me. Is this image useful?
Don't be showing off because we're online.
Is this image mine? So let's look at the fits on me Black woman. From somewhere beyond a sincere brother's hopes, high standards, and way beyond reality comes the phenomenal female of myth and legend. The fits on me Black woman. In spite of the fact that she really doesn't exist, she's perceived as perfection personified. And many a man either thought he had seen one locked on to some other brother's arm or that he had one himself, only to eventually discover that he had been once again sadly mistaken. The fits on me Black woman possesses every impressive quality you'd ever want and not a thing you don't. She fits our fantasies like a glove and holds the promise of being worth the very long wait for her glorious arrival. Their superior good taste and limitless patience is what keeps some men eternally searching for her while repeatedly dismissing the real life women all around them. If a man believes in the existence of the fits on me Black woman, then his woman has to fit all of his idealized go-tos. Okay? I mean, got tos. And here's the list. She's got to be incredibly, completely, eternally fine with no visible flaws, thus perfectly fitting his lofty daydreams about himself. She's got to be an absolute genius with the kind of brilliance and extraordinary ability that elevates his status. She fits him because her brilliance can be turned on and off, and he controls the switch. She's got to be extroverted enough. Oh, yeah, you in already. She's got to be extroverted enough to prove he snagged a winner, but introverted enough to keep others from thinking he picked a tramp. She fits him because she's willing to become what he dreams of. She's got to be interested in what he's interested in to the same degree that he is. She fits him because she doesn't place a high value on the things he doesn't care about. She's gotta be highly spiritual, but fits him by not letting pleasing her God become more important than pleasing her man. She's got to be honest and outspoken, but she fits him by only saying what he loves to hear. She's got to be ambitious and self-reliant. Oh, yeah, you got all them ums. But she fits him because she's willing to trash her ambitions and goals if they inconvenience or intimidate him. She's got to be passionate and sexually proficient, but she fits him because she's willing to let him decide the when and how of it all. She's got to intuitively know his values, desires, and expectations, but fits him because she doesn't need him to tell her what they are. She's got to have all the nurturing qualities of his mother, but she fits him because she never treats him like he's her son. Hold up. Wait, let me hear some agreement. You had adamant disagreements. Let me hear some disagreements.
No, that is so crazy to me. How both and all the time? Both and?
What do you
That's
mean both and?
so to me, a conscientious woman, which I think regardless of what the stereotypes are,
Mhm.
we as women, I think, are patient. We can ebb and flow in those things, but not on a dime. Just like I don't think that we expect men to on a dime switch and flip on that. I'm just laughing about it because that sounds like this term called a Stepford wife. Stepford
But
wife.
what I'm asking you, do you think that this is outdated, like you thought what he was saying with the women? Do you think men
Yeah.
no longer feel this way or have these either subconscious or conscious expectations of women?
Um
You don't hear women currently complaining about men having this mentality towards them? Because I sure as heck do.
I think, yeah. I mean, it is out. I think that men, maybe men, I
Look,
don't know.
men,
I am
men.
not a man, so I can't say.
So, but
But
this
the
is
women, I was speaking from my standpoint as a woman and the women that I speak to and the women that I observe online too. Of course there are people that are extreme, but I think women in general want to elevate within themselves, and they want to be the sex goddess, the entrepreneur, the wife, and all of those things, but it's in balance. But we'll get to how, to me, both ends. I think men understand that women are more. I don't know. That sounds
look.
very Stepford wife to me. And I don't think that men, I would hope,
He's not saying.
that extreme. That's just
Maybe
being
I didn't
crazy.
set it up properly.
I don't know. Maybe you
He's
did.
saying the fits on me black woman is the idealized black woman, and that is unrealistic for men to have all of these expectations.
No, I
So,
understand.
and I'm
Yeah,
not saying that every man has all of these literal expectations. But
right.
what I'm saying is we gotta analyze this. Because when I first looked at the list, I was like, nah, I ain't. I said, hold on, let me really analyze myself and see, do I have any of these feelings?
Mhm.
You know, yeah, yeah. I want you to be extroverted enough to prove that I snagged a winner, but introverted enough to keep others from thinking you're a tramp. I mean, if I'm real with myself, I don't,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
but that's not an unnatural desire. But what he's saying is he's showing the contradictions and
mhm,
the expectations that we put on one another can be very extreme and it can be a lot.
I
But
get it.
if we learn how to love one another properly, we can have all the things. So let's listen though to
Okay.
when he because he's going to get into who black women really are.
I'm not saying that he didn't. I just that list was like
Okay.
interesting. But keep going.
So
Thank you.
obviously, he says, obviously, this image of black women is the figment of a highly creative but completely self-absorbed imagination.
Mhm. Touche.
It's a naive and unrealistic stereotype of black women that categorizes them as their men's perfect trophies and the ultimate badge of his status and significance. But the fits on me image of black women is way over the top. The facts are way off. And to use them will keep you endlessly waiting for the right black woman to come along and constantly dissatisfied with the real life one you already have. This is not who black women really are. So then he talks about the steps on me, black women. So this is now the other extreme. Far
Mhm.
out at the opposite extreme from the previous fantasized portrait of black women is the steps on me, black woman.
Mhm.
She is that hopelessly negative woman that embodies men's worst perceptions. It's an overgeneralized misrepresentation of all Black women based on the most glaring faults of some of them. This distorted image of them has helped make Black male-female relations increasingly become a hotbed of mistrust, hostility, and alienation.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the list. She competes with men, trying hard to outdo them in nearly every arena, including love, career, finances, morality, and self-sufficiency. And she feels justified in pointing out how men come up short in them all. She's never satisfied and constantly demands more and more sensitivity and emotional expression from her man, then criticizes him for being weak and coming up short when he gives it. She's critical, comparing her man unfavorably to men of other races and cultures, and delights in showing him how he comes up short.
Mm-hmm.
She's suspicious, convinced that her man means her no good, and either just lied to, cheated on, or disrespected her, or is about to somehow come up short integrity-wise. She's unfaithful and either has had or is secretly fantasizing about having some other man against whom her man comes up short. She's bitchy, all neck swiveling, hip holding, eye rolling, and acid tongue when he fails. She believes when he comes up short, he deserves it. Are there any Black women who possess these harsh, judgmental qualities? Absolutely. But does this image accurately reflect the way most Black women relate to their men? Of course not. Your disgust with them and perhaps some exhausted unwillingness to take a closer look at Black women and the nature, intent, and meaning of their style of relating may threaten to lock this scathing generalization into your mind. In fact, few women deserve to be placed in this category. It is as extreme and unrealistic as the previous one. This is not who Black women really are. Okay. Now, he talks about the lean on me Black woman. The leans on me Black woman is yet another worthless misinterpretation of the facts. Misrepresentation of the facts. It's sure to steer you down a dead end street rather than reliably guide you through the adventure of mutually gratifying love with a Black woman. This distortion of Black women's image is based on the suspicion that some men hold, which suggests that she needs me to make her life work. She needs me to take away all her hurts. She needs me to fulfill her romantic fantasies. She needs me to finance her existence. She needs me to give her a reason to live. She needs a minimum of 200% of me for her to feel loved and secure. Emotionally dependent, smothering, and insecure are words that describe this image of Black women that many men hold. Reading all Black women this way can cause you to view them as an energy depleting burden who need way too much from you. She overwhelms you with responsibility for her needs. Or equally bad, she's exactly what you desire, because when she leans on you, you feel like Superman. But what you may interpret as terminal neediness in her could be the manifestation of a woman's natural pursuit of a vital sense of stability and security in her relationship with you. To a man, her determined pursuit of a mutual and interdependent connection with you can easily be mislabeled as emotional disability. This is not who Black women really are. Okay? Now, we got some more. We working here. Okay?
Oh,
go ahead.
Okay. So all right. So I see what he's doing here, and I think that that's a great segue into the next part of what you're going to expose, because those are extreme thoughts on both spectrums, which comes from fear, pain, disappointment, and lack of peace within. That's a clear example to me. But keep going.
Okay. So then there's men, meaning he's speaking to men now about the delusional thinking of that some of us hold of black women. And not every man, not every individual man holds all of these, but it's our job to look and see and analyze ourselves and see, okay, do I have any of this stuff in my mind that could be interfering with my relationship? So there's the works on me black woman. Maybe you're a man whose internal video image and personal dictionary definition of black women is closer to the works on me black woman, with all her ridiculously high standards, precise tastes, and unceasing preoccupation with making improvements upon the man in her life. She's determined, or here's the list. She's determined to make her man suit her ideals, her fantasies, and her agenda. She's full of overflowing with unsolicited advice and subtle or overt attempts to instruct the man who loves her. And so we're not saying there's no women who behave this way, but we're saying experiencing things with some of the women, it sometimes we form and solidify these opinions of who and what they are based on our experiences. And then we develop mental blockages and emotional blockages in the way we can enable ourselves to love black women. So here, she's chronically controlling, a walking book of rules and regulations that she expects her man to follow explicitly if his love is sincere. I mean, I've experienced this stuff with black women, but I had to heal from it in order to reset so that I can have a pure interaction with my new black woman, so that I won't keep treating her like I'm functioning out of previous residue from previous relationships. Okay. So she can't seem to connect romantically when her man's pace or performance does not match her preferences. She thinks his job is to find out what she wants him to do or be and immediately get in step with it. She talks too much and listens too little. She's pushy, manipulative, bossy, and vengeful. She expects her man's love to be demonstrated by bowing to her standards, values, and expectations. She is a combination. Wow. She is a combination school teacher, mother, and foreman. See, this is some men's perception of black women based on some experiences that they had.
I agree. And I agree that there are, certain women that function and flow like that. And I would add a caveat that based on a woman that is willing to help you, I think that sometimes men feel a certain way if a woman has a certain expertise or a certain vision and she's trying to support him by sharing information or structuring something, and he feels that his manhood is being challenged in some type of way because his wife or girlfriend has a certain area of expertise and she's telling him, hey, why don't you do A, B, C, and D? And he's bucking back, if you will, or rejecting it. So I definitely.
But that's. I'm sorry. I'm just eager. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I definitely can understand the viewpoint, and I do know that there may be women that may be more extreme with that, but sometimes it becomes extreme because the man is not flowing in the direction that they both had said they were going to go into. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Right. However, or in addition to that, he's saying that he's experienced this and it has created blockages, and the man must be aware what may interfere with the blockages. So if he had experience with like a bossy woman, controlling woman, and then now his new woman exemplifies those same characteristics, he will automatically put resistance up against it, and it may not be her doing the exact same thing as the previous one, but it reminds him of that, and he seeks to protect himself from that because it hurt him in the past, because he hasn't healed and renewed and refreshed his perception and his relationship with black women. He's still carrying that stuff from the previous woman, or even stuff from previously in the relationship, and everything gets colored by now his fixed perception of her. So what he's saying is basically warning us from having fixed perceptions of one another. Okay. And so he says the works on me black woman image could be firmly embedded in your psyche due to even a single previous experience with a compulsive controller. But beware, it can also come from inside you. If you tend to have a hard time accepting black women who really aren't compulsive improvers, but are assertive, self-assured women who do not fail to voice their desires, expectations, and opinions. And if they sound to you like demands or instructions, it can feel as if your competence to achieve results on your own is inadequate. Okay, so I know a lot of men, including myself, get defensive if we made to feel that way, or not made to feel that way, like it's the woman's fault. But if what she's doing is saying, it triggers.
You choose to feel that way.
No, don't complete my sentence. If what she's saying triggers
whatever.
If what she's saying and doing triggers that memory and triggers them emotions for us to react, in that way. Not her fault.
It's not
our responsibility. So
he's choosing to feel that, but based on that trigger. That's what I was saying.
Right. Yeah. But what he's saying is, I know that's what you were saying, but you know how I like you completing my sentences.
Okay, well, get to the point.
All right. So he's saying this is not who black women really are. He says left with only the 4 previous perceptions of black women, you may find the ideal developing and maintaining intimate relationships with them a not so appetizing proposition. Okay, so we got to look at this. I wish a lot of the passport bros would start to really examine this stuff. But anyway, let's go. With those stereotype generalizations, loving a black woman will be a start again, stop again, can't wait to get in, then can't wait to get out nightmare. A lot of men are experiencing black women like this, but that don't mean it's black women's fault. So we got to be clear. The 4 images of black women outlined above are actually distortions, though it's not hard to see how these images have come to persuade us of their inaccuracy. They are still untrue. They steer us away from mutually satisfying love rather than toward it. Take a closer look. Something is definitely wrong with these pictures. I want to offer a more balanced, comprehensive, and realistic view of real life black women than any of the previous ones. It comes closer to the straight facts and not those rare one-time only experiences that aren't even close to the norm. And straight facts are what men rely upon and love, as in everything else. So now he's going to talk about the counts on me black woman. He's saying this is who the black woman really is.
Okay.
She treasures spiritual, physical, emotional, and psychological intimacy with her man, which may sometimes appear to him as clingy neediness. Mutuality and demonstrative affection are the key. She treasures balance and therefore keeps close tabs on the score. And we know women be keeping score, but it's because y'all treasure balance. Okay. That's my aunt. She is at her best in relationships when she is confident of her man's devotion, faithfulness, and consistency. Let's read that again.
That's it. I was getting ready to say that's it.
Let me read it again. She is at her best in relationships when she is confident of her man's devotion, faithfulness, and consistency as demonstrated, not merely declared.
That's it.
She often speaks first from her subjective world of feelings than from her precise objective awareness. And that's where we get men saying, oh man, she's so emotional. Women are so emotional. She speaks often first from her subjective world of feelings, then from her precise objective awareness. Okay. She has a love style that relies heavily on verbal expression. Yeah, very true.
Whatever.
She has high expectations. She has high expectations of her man and of loving relationships, which may appear too much like demands to perform to him. She can give almost limitless love, encouragement, and affection to her man when she is secure in her man's love for her. She can feel the need to withdraw, defend, or retaliate if she experiences fatigue, frustration, and the fear of being rejected, ignored, or taken advantage of. She has become increasingly more cautious and less trusting about showing vulnerability to the men in her life. So we got to read that last line again. That's important. She has become increasingly more cautious and less trusting about showing vulnerability to the men in her life. And the same thing goes for the men with the women. So, to wrap up this reading of these excerpts, contrary contrary to appearances and some of men's most fiercely held beliefs, the counsel on me, black woman, is who really exists in the heart and soul of the woman in your life. More than likely, that's who the black woman you have loved in the past, the one you love now, or will love in the future really is. Admittedly, it is not always easy to detect her presence inside your mate. The counsel on me, black woman, comes in all shapes and sizes and hues, with every possible personality type and behavioral trait. To truly see her, you will sometimes need to look beyond a woman's tone and attitude, or hear the words she didn't speak, or respond to the feelings she failed to express. It can completely transform your picture of her. She wants, above all, to be able to depend on you for the steady, willing supply of your very best treasures, your sincere and demonstrated devotion and commitment. She doesn't need you in the can't make it without you sense any more than you need her. She deeply desires you and the love you are able to bring into her life. To attempt to give her that love while holding on to the distorted images and stereotypes means you'd be working in the dark without the real facts. You'd labor in vain trying to give and get real love without the good understanding that matters so much to men. You have there inside you abundant power that when properly harnessed and creatively applied, can make incredibly fulfilling love possible for both of you. Believing that will make all the difference in the world as you navigate your way through this book, because now the straight facts are in. This is who black women really are.
Okay. Thank you so much for reading from both of those books. I can appreciate Dr. Ron Elmore's analysis. And what I'm going to do is bring that forward 25 years to say that um in general, I think that women and men essentially want the same thing. And one of the main issues is Sarah, Dr. Sarah Winkler asks what you are reading from, and I'm going to show. So Simbi is reading from How to Love a Black Man and How to Love a Black Woman by Dr. Ron Elmore. Elmore, if you're interested. I'm sure you probably have a copy at some point. Women and men, especially Black men and Black women, I, we are natural nurturers, givers, supporters, and workers. We are inspired by love and the way that you show up. Now, women in this day and age, we have different value systems about uh, in terms of how we see that translated. So I think it's very dangerous to think, and again, I'm not saying that this is what this man is saying, but just in general, that a woman, a Black woman, is specifically one thing. There are some women that do want to be at home and take care of the children and not work. And I think that that is a valid desire if that's what she wants. There's also other Black women that want to go out in the workforce and create businesses or be CEOs. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Just as there are some men that would love the privilege and honor to take care of their women and let them stay home. There's also men that have no problem with their women being a force in the world. What I would say is that I think that socially, men and women are told that you can't have that. If the woman is out there in the world as a CEO or a businesswoman, and the man says he wants to stay home and take care of the children or to run a business from home, he is judged. He is seen as being feminine or lazy or whatever, and is usually by his own peers. And then if the women decide to judge him, it's because, as you stated, he is not quote unquote shown up in a certain way. The main thing to me is that we have to be vulnerable with ourselves in terms of what we want, and then we need to balance it with what we truly need. That's to me the first point. And then we have to start creating space to be vulnerable enough to share that with our partners. And I think that a lot of us step into the relationships with our ego first. We encase our ego. We give this persona of what we think the other person should want and desire based upon social standards. You got the man has to lead. He got to be in control, got to run the house, and the woman should be submissive. When for centuries the woman has had a vital role in helping to make things happen and running the household. I don't think there's anyone, male or female, that is the de facto leader. I do think that women sometimes are asked to acquiesce to letting the man be perceived or seen as the leader. And I don't have an issue with that. But it's very rare that a man makes all the decisions. But I think because Black men have felt disrespected, disregarded, and unvalued, that they are expecting and needing and wanting their partners, their wives, their girlfriends to give them what they feel the world has not given them. And I think most women have no issue giving that if the woman gets that as well in return. We also were with you, if we want to go back to slavery times, we were abused and trafficked just like you. We saw you dismantled as a man in front of us and our children, but the man also saw us dismantled, disrespected in front of him and our children. So we both share this trauma of the need to be acknowledged and valued. We also carry the stain of distrust from being trafficked in cooperation with our brothers and sisters on the continent. It goes so deep that we have to just stop with the competition and just be vulnerable with ourselves and then vulnerable with our partners. And how does that start? That starts by recognizing that we can't do these things by ourselves. Is recognizing and accepting that if I say I did all this for you, why don't you love me? But did she or he ask for that? If she or he asks for more quality time, but you say, well, I bought you uh a new house. I appreciate the beautiful house, but we're not spending time in it together. And then you don't understand why the man is mad and doesn't want to come home, but when he does come home, the wife is reserved, withdrawn, because you're not listening to each other, but you're trying to make, like I think you shared early on, make this person, your partner, be this fantasy stuff without doing the work. You can have a close imagery of your quote unquote perfect woman if you give more sugar. I think it's very simple. Like, we're not perfect, but we give each other enough honey to keep balance. And I think that's the main thing. It's not perfection, it's balance. Go ahead. It's important for us to consider where these misperceptions come from. We have to validate one another's experiences that led to our distortions and overgeneralizations. Yes. I mean, that's huge.
So
that's what I'm saying, basically.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was supporting what you were saying about our experience. It's like, okay, we may have like here, both men and women are functioning with one another out of their distorted perceptions of one another. Like, for example, when we talk about how, you know, the mentality of black women is towards black men, or the mentality that black men is towards black women, and how distorted it could be sometimes. It's really like, and when we like argue against them, and when they make these certain points, when we argue against one another, it's like invalidating the fact that this woman or several women have a certain experience, and are whether they're witnessing it, hearing about it, or experiencing it themselves, that produce pain, produce mistrust,
Right.
etc., with black men. And so, but then when they, out of the distorted overgeneralization of saying this is how men are, this is what men are, we fight against that. Like, no, you're wrong, sister. You know, what you're saying about us is incorrect. But y'all be doing such and such and such and such. You know, or what about y'all? It's the what abouts. You know, what about what y'all do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
What about
right? And so we invalidate each other, instead of being like, you know what, I understand that you have an experience that has caused you to distrust men.
Right.
But
Why? What's
now,
so hard about that, you think?
right. You know, now how can we help you to heal from that so that you can move forward and have a healthy relationship experience again, or maybe for the first time or whatever, you know? So let's work with the healing. Like, when you hear like an angry black man or an angry black woman angry at women, men angry at women, women angry at men, you know, just talking about all the negative stuff that they do and experience, that's a person that needs some healing and some compassion.
But let me ask you this. So, yes, they may need that love and compassion, but what if they don't want it? Because I know there are a lot of women and there are men that have went into a relationship with someone that may have been, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, damaged or hurt, and they try to, quote unquote, heal them or save them. And that's where we end up getting this cycle of pain and hurt, because you may be, oh, well, this guy or this woman is a nice person, but they've been cheated on, they've been abused, and whatever. They have a story that they're functioning off of.
Yeah.
And men and women both decide they want to heal them through it. right? We
All
want to
right. Well,
help.
you asked me a question, or
I'm
were you
not, I'm
making a
setting,
statement?
I'm setting up the question. Let me finish.
All right,
I'm
it's a
setting
long
up the
question.
question.
That question
That's
long in the
okay.
mug.
That's okay. I'm setting it.
I'm sniffing some of your incense.
Yeah, do that. Do that. Do that. Do that.
Helps to relax my brain and supercharge it.
Good. Yeah, good. And so how what do you think that men like when does it become I'm no longer your scratching post? Like when how can a can
So that's the second question you just asked. So I got to keep track of all these questions
go ahead. I'm done. I'm done.
because you asked
Because
what if someone doesn't want to be healed? Because remember you jumped in and interrupted me with the finger, and so now you're gonna give me this whole list of questions that I got to keep track
I
of.
didn't use the finger. I did it like this, like,
That's what I
hey,
said. The finger. I didn't say middle finger. I said the finger. So all I'm saying is,
go
my
ahead.
mindful communication, baby. It's a sacred opportunity. Um, so look, you said, what if someone doesn't want to be healed? Then it's
Right.
their choice. Everybody is free to keep walking down the path of misery if they want to, but
Mhm.
it's just up to us to acknowledge, okay, this person don't want to be healed. And so they're going to keep having toxic experiences. So maybe, I can decide to just steer clear of them. Or if they want to be in constant perpetual vent, like if someone you know closely and they always complaining about relationships, so they're in a perpetual vent mode. But when does the processing and the healing start? So now I got to constantly listen to you vent about your misery and your negative opinion of men and women from your experience. But when do you take accountability for where you are and why you keep experiencing the same thing? And so this person who insists on staying in that space, you can't really do nothing about that except like give them some space to be in their space, you know. But you could be there when they articulate or at least demonstrate that they ready to take that step out of that misery through being willing to take on a different perception of things. Then you can
Yeah.
start working with that person because now it's something to work with. But it's just a brick wall if they insist on staying there. So it's like with anybody, like with a drug addict, you can't help them until they hit rock bottom and they ready to change.
Okay.
Because these people, this type of person is addicted to pain. They addicted to misery
So
because
do
they
you
they don't they don't they don't accept the process or the methods or the fact that they have to engage in the process of healing and transformation. So remember, this month, peace, understanding, and acceptance. You have to understand where you are, what's going on with you, with your relationships, and you have to accept what it is that you have to do to create the experience that you want.
and what are you contributing?
And you
Because
have to
I
understand and accept that as well. What you contribute. Yes.
because that what I was because what you're saying is true. Like if someone backs up, but I think that if this person is being a brick wall towards me, there's an aspect of me that I'm also being very stoic and 10 toes down on as well. There's an aspect of it where there it's like we're still hitting. So if a person is vulnerable, do you think that that opens the door as to say, like I would say, Simbi, what you said really hurt me. And I don't necessarily think that you intentionally meant to hurt me, but it really hurt me for A, B, C, and D. B, and it also triggers because when I was a child or when I was with so and so, this happened and that happened. So this is why I am responding to you. And I think that women are more apt, my opinion, to share why they're in pain or why they are responding to a man in a certain way. But I think that sometimes men are not emotionally accountable. They want to be accountable for tangible things that they can see, touch, and smell. But
So
I said, I think, yeah, go ahead, smell the incense, come through, come through. I'm just saying, I don't think that certain men, not all, are emotionally accountable towards their women.
so
Not all,
let's
because they are not emotionally accountable to themselves.
so you have to see, this is where we have to be
Mhm.
very strategic. We have to be careful of communicating these distortions. So
I said some.
you just made a generalization
No, I
that
didn't. I said some.
you think that most women are more
Mhm.
emotionally accountable.
No, expressive. I did not say accountable. I said
Or
expressing.
you said accountable.
No, I said,
You
but
said
men,
accountable.
did I? Okay, we'll roll.
We can rewind the tape.
Yeah,
You
we'll
said
roll the tape
accountable.
back.
So no, but
Okay.
what I'm saying is now there's an opinion by many men expressed that women are not accountable. Women react and buck against that opinion of them. And so now you're using that word now to push back on men. And I'm not saying that was your intention, but this is what it does. If you say that that men are not as emotional accountable as women, so they're saying now we're something less than, because it's good to be accountable, right? So now we're something less than women on that good trait. I don't agree with that at all.
Okay. That's fine.
Just like I don't agree when men say women are not accountable. I don't agree with that at all.
I said so. Okay.
So,
And
but
that's
no,
true.
no. So I'm just taking a little detour to express how when we communicate, we have to be mindful of what our communications can trigger
True.
in people who are in need of healing. You
Okay.
know, and so we know that we nitpick as men and women, black men and women. We listen closely to someone that's criticizing our gender, and we looking for the imbalance. We looking for
Mhm.
we want to hear the good
True.
things that are being said. If we hear the negative, we they got to say the balance. They can't just be saying, you know, men do this or women do that without giving, okay, we can understand why men may do that, or when or men and women do the same thing, but we may do it differently. So you got to bring the balance so we can have a balanced discussion. And that was the big beef with women had with Kevin Samuels. It wasn't so much, you know, it wasn't so much what he was saying, because he was making good points, but he wasn't
Mm.
bringing the balance. Like you got to bring the balance of why do women think the way in this way that men are criticizing. It ain't just because they just, you know, just off they rocker, and they just so messed up that they acting this way or they're being this
No,
way
of
or had
course not.
their men that mentality that men be criticizing. It comes from something, it comes from somewhere, just like the
The-
distortions that men express comes from something, and it comes from somewhere.
Okay. So let me clarify. If anyone thought or heard, which I don't recall saying, but I will clarify. What I was saying was that women are more often to be emotionally expressive about what they feel and what they're going through most of the time. Most women, not all, but most women will express how they are feeling. They may not always be perhaps as clear as a man would like to know or hear or to understand, but I think that that is true. I think that men, when I said emotional accountability, what I mean is that they are not sometimes comfortable when a woman expresses her emotions and feelings because this particular man, not saying all, have not learned or not even adept with their own emotions and feelings. So when a woman comes with their feelings, they're not emotionally accountable for themselves, let alone the woman, because they have not been raised or trained to express their emotions. And this is why, to go back to what you were talking about when we first started, about the level of violence that we are experiencing. And sometimes I think that when women hear that women are not accountable in the general sense, it is offensive to some women, because we think that we have been taking on the role of being accountable for centuries. We're often accountable for the household, how the household runs. We are accountable for our children and the way that they are feeling. And so have you. And as we move into modern times, women have had to be accountable for the emotional well-being of the household and their children and themselves and their extended family, and the bills and the house and the mortgage, and to go to work and to be accountable for their teammates and so have you. So it can feel insulting when women are told that they're not accountable when they have functioned as well as men to be accountable. And I think that men are more geared for accountability, as I stated earlier, for tangible things. And I think that both parties need to balance what accountability is beyond what, quote unquote, society has told them. I hope that made sense. I was trying to clarify
Yeah,
what I
yeah. I
said.
mean, it makes sense, and I think accountability is a human thing. It's not a male
Mhm.
and female thing like some people try to make it. But like you just stated, you know, like I never agree with brothers when they say women are not accountable or even not held
Mhm.
accountable. I don't agree with that at all. I watch women every day be accountable,
Mhm.
and then I watch a lot of men every day not be accountable, and vice versa.
Yeah.
There are women that are unaccountable, and there are men that are unaccountable. So I think that's a silly thing to say, and
Yep.
expect it not to trigger an argument, because it's not accurate. you know Now you may be mad that society, that a woman can smack you all in the face, and then if you call the police you might end up getting arrested. Yeah, you may be mad because she may not
Not
be
that much
held
anymore.
accountable. Yeah, not that much no more, but you may be mad because, oh, that's not fair. Okay, but then we can go tit for tat on things that are not fair for women and things that are not fair for men. But that's a waste of time. Okay,
Mhm.
why we beefing? Why we getting to smacking? And why we trying to measure so much about who's doing the most wrong, and who to one another? That
Mhm.
that victim, like some people call it, the victim marathon or victim Olympics or something. We do
You
that
did
with
this.
with
Well,
men and
well,
women.
well, 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 you did that. And that time back in 2012 when I was what? Damn, we going back. Yeah, we're going all the way back there. Like why?
Look, that Daryl on here talking about orgasms.
No, but he's right. When two people can express in authenticity, it can be quite orgasmic. Yes, because you
Yeah,
trust one another. So therefore you can be more vulnerable intimately, where you can experience orgasms, you can experience more peace and understanding.
and
Yes,
it frees up pinned up energy, locked in, trapped in energy, because you holding in the real shit. And so then
but
when you
can
can express the real stuff with one another, then that releases energy. That's orgasmic.
can I trust you? That I mean, it goes back to the vulnerability of trusting that they can see my scars and my boo-boos. you know.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a whole nother conversation of being able to, number one, understand who you vibe with. The vibe is one. Number two is the layers of authenticity. And sometimes people can show up and tell you everything up front. Other people, they go through stages. But like, are you willing to be yourself? Are you willing to trust? And that's, I mean, but I always say that, you know, above trusting you, like I have a level of trust, but I have to trust my choice in man. I have to trust my choice in who I chose to be with, because at the end of the day I can say, you know, I'm connected or you're doing, you're making, but I made the ultimate choice to be with you, you know. And so I have to take certain accountability, that why did I choose you at that particular time, and why do I continue to choose you? What areas do I need to continually you know, grow in? Because once you get together, that's when the real, because we teach our clients that you have a relationship entity. Regardless if you have children together in the natural sense, you have a relationship entity. You and your partner are coming together and creating an energy, a cipher of energy between you two. Is it toxic? Is it agreeable? What's going on with that? Oh, thank you, Daryl.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
appreciate that. We appreciate that acknowledgement. So look, we've been on here way beyond what
Yes.
we intended to stay. This subject
Just
is
the beginning.
yeah, we just beginning. You know, we if we want peace, we have to have understanding and acceptance. If we want peace in the community, peace in the world among black people, we have to have understanding and acceptance. We got to understand ourselves and accept ourselves and one another. And we have to understand that true understanding comes through educating ourselves. So why not study relationships? It needs to be a course that you never finish studying. You know,
Mm,
like if you suck at something, become an expert in it.
got to. Start
Eh,
with yourself. Be an expert of yourself.
Yeah, because that's the first relationship. That's the primary relationship. You know, and so I, I sucked at relationships. I ain't gonna lie, I sucked at it. I thought I was good. I thought I, was good at it, but no, I sucked at it. And so, ironically, now I'm a relationship coach. Why? Because I dug right in
Mm-hmm.
and I said, okay, I got to learn about this thing. I got to become more conscious, more aware of myself, and I got to study the dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Always being always learning. I ain't never going to know it all. I'm always studying, observing my woman and myself in relationship to my woman, feeling the energy, just trying to read the energy, all of that. I'm reading books. And so I'm going to push us to study um these two books. I should have, posted a picture of them. But
Yeah.
How to Love a
Okay.
Black Man and How to Love a Black Woman by Dr. Ron Elmore. Yeah, he wrote the book back in late 90s, early 2000s, but so what? It's still relevant. But like Kendra, we can update it, but I don't think much needs to really be updated because we still got faulty perceptions and we still functioning
Yeah.
with one another out of our ill perceptions. But he gives a lot more. I just read a few excerpts of the book, but of
Yes.
course he gives a lot more insight. And so it could be a beginning. This book is not the end all be all and have all the answers. But do not say that there's no manual for relationships when there are tons and tons of books and information out here that we can use to improve our situation with one another.
Can I share something really quick before we go?
Mhm.
This was an added value for my Christian viewers that may be watching. I always love the way that they like to talk about the Proverbs 31 woman, about how she is considered the perfect wife or whatever. But they don't really go into, they don't delve into the full passage where, and again, this is not a feminist point, but it may be interpreted that way, but please don't. They talk about the woman running her house. They talk about her taking what she makes in the house and taking it to the market to sell and making more money. And they're talking about the way that the man is praised at the city gates. They never said what the husband does, from what I know. which I thought was very interesting. They never say what
Let me take a sniff.
what the husband does, but this shows a woman that was married, but she had a very clear identity of who she was within the marriage and the partnership. She ran her household with excellence and peace and grace. She made fabrics and dye, and she took it to the marketplace. So even in quote unquote biblical times, we had this woman that was running her house and working. And the men was like, your wife is the bomb. She running a house. She got stuff going on.
So what do you think the men were
money.
doing? What do you think the men were doing? Since it
I
didn't
mean,
say it.
I mean, he may have had another job. I'm not saying he wasn't working or anything like that, but I think I find it interesting that when they talked about him, he was at the city gates. He was getting praised by the folks in the city, like, man, your wife is a, you know.
Well, city gates, maybe he was politicking.
Yeah, but my whole point is the idea of the perfection of the woman is being a balanced woman, an industrious woman, you know. And I think that sometimes, you know, we need to look at that, because all women may not want to be that way, but I think some Black men especially have some challenges with that, but we can discuss that another day.
Well, as a Black man, I have no challenge with my woman being in the marketplace and you know, making some money. I'd be an idiot to have a challenge with that, you know. But hey, to each his own. You run your household the way you run.
Yeah, but to each his own. Exactly. Whatever you two agree upon. Don't try to force someone to be something. But most often, people want the same things. They argue about the pathway to getting it. That's what I see. Whenever we coach couples, we always find that they both, the end type of result, they both want, but they disagree on the path and the steps. And that's where balance, the Ma'at principle, comes into play. With, okay, we could do this much like you, but let's make sure we add in this from me. Let's make sure that when you come home, you know, if you feel like you need time to be in your own space when you come home, I will honor that. But make sure that you check in with me and give me some love, because I need that too. You know, I what's wrong with it? I don't feel like it. You may not feel like it, but that little 2 seconds after you have decompressed is to give her a kiss is energy that can transform her attitude, that can create more patience from her, because you are acknowledging her need for affection, and then she will gladly, openly give you more. If
Right.
she, you know, things like that. But we can, again,
Yeah, I mean, this
you
subject goes
you
all
you
so
dominated the conversation today, so I couldn't get my point.
well, you got a lot of points in. I know I had a lot to read, but either way,
It's all good.
we are the Ma'at temple of elevation. Maybe we should change it to the Ma'at temple of love. The Ma'at temple of love. But either way, love is included in Ma'at. Well, let's see. Danielle Alexander says marriage and relationships are as much about being of service to your partner as it is to have an individual identity, life, etc.
I agree.
Yes,
They both go
that,
hand in hand. Yes, yes,
yes,
ma'am.
yes. And so in closing, the Ma'at temple, that key word being Ma'at. Ma'at governs relationships, or at least we should allow Ma'at to govern our relationship. Okay, because Ma'at it deals with balance,
Hmm.
reciprocity, deals with truth, deals with love, unconditional love, that service, that giving, expecting nothing in return because you're giving to yourself when you give to another. However, that lofty statement does not mean you don't need reciprocity, because the reciprocity is getting back. You know that you will get back what you give, but you don't have
Hmm.
the mentality of I'm doing it just because I want you to do it for me. Which that when we talk about energy, you definitely want to be what you want. However,
Reciprocity. Hmm.
yeah. However, you're mainly doing it because you love your partner. You know, if I don't want my wife to hurt because I love her. I don't want her
Same
to be
here.
hurt. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to see her sad face. I don't want her to see it being depressed. This and no, I'm going to address it. I'm not going to let it linger. What's going on, babe? You know, sometimes she may have the shell up or whatever because it might be something I did that she mad about, and she don't really want to say the wrong thing or whatever. So she like nothing. And I know when her voice pitch go up, nothing. Oh, okay, that's a lie. Nothing. No, I'm fine. She get that high pitch. I'm fine. She lying.
Yeah,
You
because I
know.
have a heavy alto voice, so you know
Yeah.
that soprano. Nah, nah, you
You
don't
know what
sing
I'm saying?
soprano.
But I learned that about her by observing and studying her. So I know, okay, I might not be able to pull it out of her now, but I'm gonna come back in a few minutes. Cause she know I ain't gonna give up. As long as she responding that way, we're gonna talk about it. I ain't gonna let her convince me that ain't nothing wrong. That way I'm walking around, just twiddling my thumbs like everything good, and then I'm gonna get hit with it later. Bam! Oh, I thought you said nothing was wrong.
As a matter of fact, you know what?
Yeah. So I
You
didn't
know,
read, I didn't read the communication, because communication not just words, it's not just fine, it's also it's fine. It's the tonality. What does that
mhm,
tonality mean? It's the body language. Okay. She got her hands crossed. She got her arms crossed, or I ain't gonna give all her tells because but either way, I'm reading the communication, I'm listening, I'm paying attention. Communication, not just hearing, is also observing. That's why we say
mhm.
mindful communications is a sacred opportunity. Our business is called Sacred Opportunities.
Yes, make sure you follow us. So before we go, I'm sorry, babe, I wanted to come in. Now, some of you guys are watching us on Facebook. Please follow myself. I am Kenda Bell, parentheses Sproul, on Facebook. I am at Joy Factor Mama Kenda on YouTube. Also, make sure you follow my husband, Simbi Akau, on Facebook, and his YouTube at Raise the Level Mandate, where he has a plethora of lessons and top and teachings on this subject and more in terms of manhood, womanhood, relationship, and etc. Mine's is more focused on joy and meditation. And of course, if you are watching us from the Reality Speaks channel on YouTube, make sure that you follow Reality Speaks Media, where you will get a plethora of some of the most enlightening African centered lectures and lecturers that we love and enjoy in one place. And follow our brother Jabari Nater as well. And Monica, Jabari, we miss you today, guys. We love you all. And we look forward to you joining us next week. So enjoy your day off for sure. We missed y'all today. I hope y'all enjoyed y'all day. Go ahead,
Yes,
babe.
yes, yes. No, that's it, babe.
Okay. Peace and blessings.
You sitting there all happy. You gotta in the live, babe.
I